he's dead. But these are all the places that he's blessed. And that's one of the messages that Iman was giving last week, that we are the fifth gospel. So if you haven't listened to the talk, please listen to it. It made me very nervous about having to follow her today, rightly, because it was a brilliant talk. Today we're going to be looking at godly friendship. And before I go to my next slide, I want to check with you guys, what's different between godly friendship and the world? How does the world view friendship differently? Any thoughts? Otherwise, I'm just going to have to point. Thanks, Amona. Thank you so much. Godly, worldly friendship, anyone?
Give and take.
Give in order to
get. Yeah.
Yes. Well done.
Drinking buddies.
Drinking buddies. So together in wallowing in pity or in something. Yes.
Conditional.
It's conditional. Well done.
Affirmation.
Affirmation. I'm only friends with those who affirm me and those that will, continue my thought process. Anything else? Well, let's see where we get to. I'm going to use some of the things that you've said, but in slightly different ways. So, you guys said conditional. Yes, conditional. I scratch your back if you scratch mine. Otherwise, there's no monkey business here. Sorry for my joke. I'm not sorry. It's conditional friendships. And as long as you fulfill my criteria and I fulfill yours, then we agree to be friends. And conditional on the idea of, look, I'm going to avoid negative people, maintain friendships with people who you have positive outlook with, and who bring out the best in you. That's conditional friendship. Anyone want to add to just that point of conditional friendship? Iman?
It's very based on me. It's all about me. Me.
Yeah. It's very selfish. It's very egotistical. It's about me. I made the mistake of Googling, so what popular pop songs are around nowadays that are egotistical, and some weird songs came up that I couldn't even talk to you about. One of them was called No New Friends, but anyway, don't look that up. It was really bad. So, what about this? So, anyone thought of the cancel culture that we have, the cancel culture? I was just going on a website and immediately got hit with a picture, 10 reasons how to drop your friends list, to detox your friends. These are the 10 things that you can do to just get rid of your friends in your friends list. Or in the middle, how to quit your friends gradually. Quit them gradually. Don't let them, off a cliff edge. Focus on I. Avoid being general, but be specific to yourself and how it makes you feel, and that's why you need to drop them. These are real, and it's like the first Google search that I did, this came up. What about the cancel culture? Anyone remember anyone that was recently cancelled? Big names that were cancelled, and why? Sorry?
James Charles.
Okay, I don't even know who that is. Okay, who is he? Tell us.
He's a guy on TikTok. He gets cancelled like every season, but he comes back.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Anyone else that I might know?
P. Diddy.
Okay.
Because
Because if James Charles keeps getting cancelled and uncancelled, surely he's never cancelled in the first place. I don't know. But yeah, Diddy.
But P. Diddy keeps coming back.
No. He's just gone.
I thought he was dead. So what about, okay, well done. That's more my level. Shut up, who's laughing? So J.K. Rowling, why was she cancelled? I've got the answer there, but anyone remember why she was cancelled? Fanuel, go for it.
Go on, Fanuel.
Was it was to do with like being a biological woman, wasn't it?
Being a what?
A biological woman.
Yes.
She didn't recognize like transgender women as.
Yeah, she said a biological woman.
woman.
It's very easy. What do you mean, what is a woman? A woman is a woman that has periods. That's,
Yeah.
that's a woman.
Yeah.
And she wrote that in 2020, and since then, her own actors and actresses that she made a livelihood for them in the Harry Potter series have been standing up against her. On what basis? What else is a woman? But anyway, yeah, cancel me by all means. So in Genesis, you might cancel that as well, but it's going to be there for a long time. Genesis 1:27, God made Adam and Eve. That's how it is. Not Adam and Eve who became Adam and Steve or anything like that. It's just Adam and Eve. Speaking the truth in love in Ephesians 4:15 says, we may grow up in all things into him who is the head, which is Christ. It's up to us as Christians to speak the truth in love. What about Jordan Peterson? Sort of. He's come back. Okay. Not important, but he keeps saying things quite directly, quite forcefully, speaks his mind, like other, what's that English guy that lives in Chiswick, huh? That's exactly him. I saw him going into Tesco, it was not Tesco, it was, anyway, one of the superstores, and he looked like he had just been very tired. But anyway, yeah. Moving on. The world, as you said earlier, on the left-hand side, conditional and utilitarian, quick to cut people off, cancel culture. Depth of purpose. There is no depth of purpose. It's about Instagram and TikTok, and the friendships that you make are just based on, okay, I'll follow you if you follow me. Why don't we do a co-presentation on this, on that? Because that way I can boost my Insta and my TikTok collaborations. The other thing is, it doesn't reinforce personal identity. They choose friendships that enforce their own identity. How does that differ from Christianity? We're going to look at that throughout the rest of the talk, but not quite yet. Unconditional and sacrificial is Christianity. Forgiveness and reconciliation is godly friendship, built on truth and growth and accountability in Christ, in the church, and to each other. Friends are companions on the road to getting to know Christ, and our identity is in him. And that's the difference. We're going to look at that. In order to look at that, we're going to look at some examples. First example we're going to look at is Jonathan and David. That's the first thing that came into my head. In the words of certain Harry Potter author, being a man's man, that's who I went to. No, just so. But anything to say? Anyone want to say anything up until this point about the world's friendship and the godly friendship? Anything that anyone wants to add at this point?
I mean, we are talking very broadly, very gently.
Yeah. Why are you saying that?
Because I think some world friendships are based on give and give as well.
Yeah, I mean the extremes of the world. The ones that do and are based on give and take, maybe they've learned from Christianity. Maybe they've learned from Christ. Maybe they've learned from goodness. Any other thoughts? Any other comments? I'm being very one-sided, but that's the remit I've got standing here in this church. Guys, you seem all too far away with my... Yeah, but I can still see you, so I'm not that old. But anyway, if you can come forward, that would be great. Any other comments on that so far? Okay, let's look at David and Jonathan. So, can someone summarize the story of and the interaction that David had with Jonathan? Can someone brave summarize some of the things, and then we can jump in and add some things? So, Joanna isn't brave. She is always brave. She is.
What would you like me to do?
Summarize David and Jonathan's interaction in the book of the Bible, 1 Samuel.
That's quite the... Thank you, Ehab. I know I just said conditional, so I'm not... And I know I'm about to say sounds like I'm just... But it really was unconditional, and it was fully loving. Those are the couple of first words that, like...
What sparked their friendship? What sparked David and Jonathan becoming friends?
Yes, I don't remember.
Any ideas from anyone? No, Joanna can keep the mic because we're coming back to you. No, it's all right. Time. Okay. What sparked David and Jonathan's friendship, Mariam?
Jonathan was supposed to be the heir to
Yes.
become king, and then David was anointed, so they could have been enemies.
Did Jonathan know that David was anointed?
I think so.
Maybe not at the beginning. But what did Jonathan know? What did he realize?
That David was a great person.
Why did he think that David was a great person? It was a very big
He
act.
loved God.
Huh?
Because he loved God.
Because he loved God. How did it show itself? It's a very giant act.
Well, David defeated Goliath.
Yes. So David, a young shepherd boy, they had been waiting on the battlefield for days upon days upon days with this 9-foot giant Philistine saying, I challenge the very armies of your God to come against me. And if I win, we will take your armies. And if you win, you can take our armies. And then this shepherd boy comes up who's been listening to all this rubbish. This shepherd boy is filled with the Spirit of God. And he has no fear in him. And he goes up to King Saul in front of Jonathan. And he says, I'm going to go and fight the giant. What, you, a mere shepherd boy? And he says, yes. He said, but you don't have any armor. Put my armor on. He puts the armor on and almost collapses because it's too heavy for him to bear. And he says, I'll do it without armor because it's not me that's going to win this. It's God that's going to win this. And Jonathan must have looked on and thought, wow, there's something special about him. I feel sorry that he's going to die. And then he goes on, and immediately the fame of David spreads because the giant is killed, not only with a slingshot and a stone, but David picks up somehow the giant sword of Goliath and chops off his head. And he suddenly realized, Jonathan realized, this is someone unbelievably special. The Lord's favor is on him. We know of Jonathan later that Jonathan was also a faithful man. He was also a mighty warrior. He loved God. And immediately there was a friendship that started to grow between David and Jonathan. Anyone want to add anything else about other things that happened between them? No? Let's see. So there's a lot of writing there, but both warriors, they were men of faith. We said that David and Jonathan had an experience, the lived experience with God himself. They were both given God-inspired courage and strength. There was a time that Jonathan was in battle and he defeated so many of the armies of the enemy. And he got hungry because that day they were fasting. And he comes back and he puts his sword or his staff in some honey that he came across and he licked it. But he was the one that won the battle for them that day. And he gets in trouble for it later because his father back in the camp has said everyone should fast as they go to war. Anyway, Jonathan didn't know, but filled with the power of God, he still defeated the enemies. David was a powerful warrior, filled with courage, filled with grace, camaraderie, akin. Their spirit talked to each other and they became friends based on that and anything else. So at one time, as David's fame grew, the people in the streets started singing a song. And it went something like this: Saul, you've slain your thousands, but David, your thousands times 10. And the song started to spread throughout Israel and through all the lands of Saul, the king, until Saul heard it. And Saul thought, Saul, you've slayed your thousands, and David, your thousands times 10. He's after my throne. He's after my lineage, and my son Jonathan is not going to be able to be king. And Jonathan meets with Saul, and he says, maybe in one of the pictures I've got, and he sits down with his father, and he says, I know you're king. You are blessed, but Saul, don't forget what David has done, and the fact that God is with him, and he's done so much for our kingdom. He's on your side. He will never do anything against you. And then Saul calmed down, and within the next day or two, the madness caught him, and he decided that he was going to kill David. And at one time, so we won't go into it, but you might know that Saul had a madness because he'd given up on the work of God in his life. And that madness would drive him angry. The only thing that would calm him down would be the praise and worship of David on his harp and the psalms that he sang. That's what would calm his heart. But I tell you what, in the palace, it wouldn't just be King Saul that would be listening to these psalms. The psalms must have rang out such that Jonathan heard them, such that Saul's daughter Michal heard them. Everyone felt the Spirit of God in this young shepherd boy praising God, and Jonathan had to defend him. What happened to Saul? One point he's singing his psalms, David, and Saul gets so angry he takes a spear and throws it at David, almost pinning him to the wall. And David somehow is rescued by the hand of God. And Jonathan squirrels him away, hides him. And at one point, Jonathan says, I don't know David, but let's make a pact together. Mariam, you said who is heir apparent? Who's about to be king? Should be Jonathan. Jonathan is the heir apparent, and he makes a pact with David. And he says, David, I'm going to give you my cloak as a symbol that anything that you need in the future, I will provide it. And David says, I have no cloak, but if you need anything in the future, if your descendants need anything in the future, I'll give it to you. Jonathan takes out one of his swords, and he says, David, if you ever need my hand in battle, I will defend you. And David says, all I've got is a sling and stones, but okay, here's my sling and here's my stones, maybe, he said, and if you ever need me to defend you, I'll defend you. And they make a pact like the current day blood brothers pact of cutting each other and shaking each other's hand. That pact is a covenant agreement between David and Jonathan, that they would stick together like brothers. Anyone know what happened to Jonathan after? The man knows where I'm going to get to, but yeah. Anyone knows what happened to Jonathan after? Does Jonathan survive his father? Does Jonathan become king? So Jonathan dies along with King Saul on the same day. There is a story told that, moving on, that David searched out for many years if any son or daughter of Jonathan remained alive that they could show him love. And there was. The story is in, what have I got there? 2 Samuel chapter 9. What had happened was, as soon as Saul and Jonathan had died, those that were looking after Saul's son, and his name is Mephibosheth, the nanny picked up this 4 or 5-year-old son, can't remember exact age, and she ran away with him, but she was in such fear that she dropped him on the stairs on the way out. He fell, and from that day was paralyzed. She continued to look after him in a cave in the middle of nowhere, because if it was known where Mephibosheth, the heir apparent now, was, then David surely will seek out to kill him, so that no heir of the old king remains. David's looking for an heir to Jonathan that he can share and continue the promise that he made to Jonathan. But Mephibosheth and his nanny, all these years, because he was found out 15, 20 years later, all these years of being whispered into his ear, if David finds you, he will kill you. If David sees you, he will destroy you. David's the reason why you're lame and crippled. David's the reason why you're not in a palace like your grandfather. David finds Mephibosheth, and in this meeting he speaks to him gently, and he says, I made a pact with your father Jonathan. He was like my brother. From now on you will eat at the king's table. The land that you had will be returned to you. Every day you will be provided for. I will protect you. You will be like my son. This is the covenant friendship that David made with Jonathan. It isn't the subject of today's talk, but it's also the covenant relationship that God makes with us. See, we ran away from God, and Satan's been whispering in our ear, God doesn't love you. He knows what you do in the dark. God doesn't love you. And God's saying, I want my son, my daughter back. Please come back. No, he's the one that caused you to be like this. He was the one that created the garden. He's the one that put the tree there. He's the one that forced you to do this, that, and the other. He's always had it in for you. And then when God finds us, as he does in his church and where we are, he says, I've loved you with an everlasting love. I've been seeking you with an everlasting desire to find you. And now that you're here, you will always be looked after. You will always have food at my table. You will always be loved. And it's so hard for us to be convinced of that because of all the years of our age and of the world around us tells us differently. Surely God can't love me. So David and Jonathan is a great example of brotherly friendship. It's also an example for us of godly friendship and how God loves us. Any thoughts on that before my pointer starts working again? Yeah, thanks. Any thoughts on that story of David and Jonathan? Anyone want to add anything? Abuna? Yes. I picked up pictures of David that look a bit like Abuna, if you realize. Did anyone realize that? And I was waiting for Abuna to be here. Like in his youth, the handsome David, and in his old age with a... Abuna is handsome as King David is handsome in his slightly young age, but as a king. Anything to add, guys, on this story of David and Jonathan? Anything that we learned from their friendship? How our friendships need to be? Anything stand out? Buna. David.
Have you ever thought that the devil will also try to attack from the very close and dear? So it was his own father that was trying to destroy that friendship, that godly friendship. So the devil will, if it's really a godly friendship, the devil will try to attack from places that we will never even think about, and will try to shake it. So the devil found the door through his father's soul, and that's where he tried to attack. But it is because of the love between David and Jonathan that he did find the door, but he could not penetrate the hedge. of love.
That's beautiful. Thank you. From those near and dear. Sometimes they're the ones that get in the way of good friendships. Any other thoughts? What was really powerful about David's friendships? Any points that we want to draw out? Joanna?
I think there was a lack of pride in both. Yeah, there wasn't. So obviously for
Jonathan could have said,
he
I'm the heir apparent.
exactly, like he could have taken what was rightfully his, and it is rightfully his, and he could have ignored it. He could have just completely been like, okay, fine, I don't have the kingship anymore, but I'm not going to be friends with this person. And for him to completely break, that's huge. And then vice versa with King David. For him again, like, you know, it makes sense to remove, I can't pronounce the guy's name, the paralytic guy, but yeah. To remove him as a threat, because obviously that was how it worked back then, and to actually bringing him in and like having dinner and having conversation, bringing him part of the family, again, that's breaking of one's pride, and it could have worked
Humility,
vice versa.
breaking with one's pride, being ourselves in
Yeah.
front of others, not having airs and graces, but just being who we are with others.
Yeah, because you hear a lot of people say, "Oh well, I'm not going to call so and so because they never called me," right? And actually, you know, I fall into that, and all of us fall into that. Oh well, they didn't do this for me, so what? So I think that's a really nice thing to see. Like that, pride was just not present at all.
That's so deep. I'm sorry the mic was having trouble at this point. Any other thoughts? So being ourselves in front of others, being who we are, not putting on airs and graces, but with our friends, we are normal. We are ourselves. Any other points that we learned from David and Jonathan? David took the first step.
Yeah, to kind of like go and face the giant, I guess. I'm not completely familiar with the story, but yeah.
First step in approaching the giant.
Yeah. He wasn't like, oh, you know what, I'm 7'5", and you know I just finished the gym, I'm ready for this. He was just like, yeah, I'll go.
David was probably
Okay.
5 foot something.
Yeah.
And this giant was like 8.5, 9 foot. Yes. You're absolutely right. Thank you for your bravery. Any other thoughts? So don't be scared to make the first step, to be ourselves. What other things can we learn from this story about friendship? And we're back. What else can we learn about friendship from the story of David and Jonathan? Yes? Your name, please?
Mano.
Okay.
Okay. I think there was no like barriers when it comes to like social class or status that was involved, no socioeconomic benefits or anything,
Brilliant.
so that they laid it on a common ground regardless of who's more wealthy or whatever.
What you said is really, really powerful. Let me just draw on this. David was acting as a servant to King Saul. And he acted as someone that would sing in order to calm Saul down. Anyone know what a servant would wear in service of the king? Any of the people that would serve the king, what they would be wearing or what they won't be wearing? Just in case we slip up, I will tell you. They would not be wearing anything on their top. No shirt. That's for the male servants. They would be bare-chested. There was no doubt that David was a slave, a servant, someone who was in service to the king, because he was the only one going round when he was in the presence of Saul or Jonathan or others that wasn't wearing a shirt, wasn't wearing a robe. And yet, those classes didn't matter to Jonathan. Jonathan was able to see directly through that and see that this was a man of God, and he realized, I want to be friends with him. I want to have the heart that he has. No classes, no airs. Lovely comment. Thank you. Anything else? Oh, do you want to add anything? Anything else? So we've had 3 things. No airs, no pretense, no class. That he was not worried of making the first step, that, thanks, Danny, that he would be himself, as Joanna said. Anything else? Any clues that we get for how to be true friends and how to make true friendships from David and Jonathan? Was their friendship solid? Did they waver in and out of friendship? I'm giving you hints, guys. Come on. Yes, sort of. They made a commitment. Once they decided, for life they were going to be friends. It was a covenant commitment. And that was it. They were going to help each other out, whatever happened.
So what that says is their friendship was very consistent.
Yes.
And with consistency comes like showing each other grace, which was our topic from last week. Shout out Iman. And also about kind of like not walking on eggshells, not having the need to just walk on eggshells with your friends, and that's what kind of like they taught us.
Just the point that we had
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I'm out of words.
No, that's brilliant. Okay, let's see what I've got, because I don't know how to shake you guys up more. Maybe Abuna will have more joy later. And this pointer. So, there was a commitment that we just mentioned. They sacrificed for one another. They were loyal. Even when things got very, very difficult, they kept their loyalty going. They drew closer together when their friendship was at its most difficult. Jonathan stood up to defend David in front of his father when his father wanted to kill David, who was slaying his tens of thousands and getting all the credit. They were free to express their emotions. They weren't worried about the fact that David is a servant in my father's house, as the point that was made earlier. So one of the anger, the things that irritated King Saul is, in front of me, you keep friendship with this man that's going to steal the kingdom from you, that's a servant in my palace. And I've told you, he's going to steal it from your... And he says, no, David's my friend. He's on your side, Dad. Realize he's on your side. And they remain friends to the end. There's more to the story, but this is the time that we had. Let's move on. How do we treat our friends? And hopefully we need to learn some of the key things here. Even when things are hard, even when people stand against us, even when the friends that we have seem to have lost all other friends around them, that's when we stick. That's when we support. That's when we jump in. That's when we defend. No, he didn't mean that. No, she didn't mean that. You've misunderstood her. This is what she meant. She's always on your side. Why are you thinking bad of her? And that's when we are to be like Jonathan, like David. Sometimes even at work, we have to do things unconventionally. So I've got a little story to tell that I may have told before, but I don't remember. Many, many years back, I was in a company where we interviewed for a front-end developer. I was leading technology at the time, and this Irish lady came in to a very big financial institution to an interview, and she was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. And immediately those that were interviewing with me said, well, you don't need to carry on, let her go. And I said, I just want to see what she's like. I want to hear her view. She was very direct. She spoke and said, I've been on your website, I see what you do, there's problems here, here, and here. And the guys that were next to me that were interviewing, they're the ones that developed these things. And they said, you definitely need to let her go. She got the job, and she started working with us, and she was a ball of Irish fire in the company. And she would make things happen, and she would be a glue that would allow things to get done. And she had no pretenses. You know, if something needed to be said, If you know a few Irish people, they're like that, and it's amazing. They would say it. She was like that. Until one day I noticed that she was getting quieter and quieter, more reserved, and that isn't like her at all. And it wasn't right. So I asked her, can we go for a walk? It's lunchtime. We'll just go. I like walking at lunchtime, the bridges near London Bridge, and then cross the bridges and carry on walking. And she said, okay. We walked and talked and walked and talked until at about the third or fourth bridge, she just broke down. And she said that her marriage was breaking down, that her husband of only 2-3 years was leaving her, that she didn't know what to do. Everything was being destroyed around her. And she kept talking and crying. We came back to the office, and from that day on, for the next 3 or 4 months, the office would plan 2 or 3 outings in the evening, lunchtime walks. We'd all go out as a group and we'd walk the bridges together, and we'd all come back. That team spirit really grew. Mags, her spirit started to lift, and she began to have people that supported her in the very difficult time that she had. She left 4 or 5 months, 6 months later, went to join another company and another, and we'd meet, and others would meet with her. Until now, we know each other, very close friends, and she would speak of that time where she had a very low point at work, where she felt there was no point to life, and the only thing that kept her going was the friendships that she'd made at work with everybody and the tight team that she felt she had. Guys, our job is to be friends with others. Our job is to find and seek those that need help. And that's what we're called to. Like Iman's talk last week, be the 5th gospel. Like our talk this week about being true friends. So, anyone want to add a story of their own? Anyone have a story to tell of their own? If David was here, he would be killing me for these pictures. But anyway. I can explain the pictures in a sec, but the price for me telling you where David is in the picture is for someone to tell a story of their own. That is the price. Anyone? Anyone go through a difficult time and friends help them?
I think, so today I was having a bit of a bad day, and then I found out that my friend had surgery. I haven't seen her in like a year and a half, and I just found out, and I thought, okay, I've got an hour before my meeting with Aborna, let me just pass by. And I saw her, and it just like made me feel so much better. Just having someone, even though we hadn't seen each other for like a year and a half, but like we went to school together, and I just felt so much better, just going to comfort her, but she comforted me in that same time. We spoke about how when we lost our grandparents, actually, it was really nice seeing who showed up for you, even if it's just like a message. We both acknowledged that just a message could mean so much, and people don't realize it, especially when you're going through hard times, especially like if people haven't seen you in church for quite some time, and then they drop you a message like, hey, I miss you, where have you been? It could literally just like change everything for you.
Thanks for sharing. Well done for your bravery. So I will drop one person. On the left, in the middle of the picture on the left, anyone know John Bishoy, Abuna Bishoy's son, the deacon that stands here on the left? If you ever see him, tell him I showed a picture of him in Germany, a trip that we had many, many years ago when he was a young person like that. That is John Bishoy, for those that know him. But we still haven't spotted David. Anyone spotted David yet? I need another story. I need another sharing.
Okay, so if I share my story, we want 3 people revealed.
What do you work
No, but honestly, is that okay? Okay. I mean, sorry guys, don't get your hopes up. Anyway, so I'm in my final year of university, but during my first year of university,
What are you studying?
I do law. That's why, hence the negotiations. You can make a 4 if you want, but anyways. So essentially, during my first year, so I'm an international student, and moving here, I was really homesick. But within my first 2 months of getting here, I was already homesick, I was already missing home, but I also got COVID. So I had to to be locked in my room for like a whole 8 days, 8 to 9 days, on my own. My parents aren't here. It was a very rough time. But then my friends. So one thing about me is I hate staying indoors. I genuinely hate staying in my room. I want to go I don't know, run outside or something. So essentially, my friends, they didn't have to. Yeah, so my friends, they formed this system of schedule. It was an unspoken schedule of every single day, one of them would come visit me, but obviously they can't be in my room, so they would just be outside my room. And towards the last day of the quarantine, they brought a projector and they projected it in my room, and they were outside in the hallway of my student accommodation. They were just viewing the movies while I was in my room. It's they didn't have to do that, and every single day they bought me food because I couldn't leave to get food or groceries. So they got me food. They just helped me with medicine, and they also just kind of entertained me. And and now these are my best friends.
Well, I'm not going to judge how good of a story that is. I think it's great. Behind John, on the right, in a blue shirt with 70s t-shirt shirt is me. That is me, lanky. I'm also in a red shirt on the bottom right picture. And I'm on the extreme left of the top right picture in some kind of sports gear. But let me tell you a story about the person on the left of the picture on the left. This is our Sunday school teacher. His name was Nagy Karam. Nagy was an amazing Sunday school teacher that was a friend to us. He would take us every Sunday to play football till we all absolutely got tired. But the condition for us playing football is that we had to attend Sunday school. And so we attended Sunday school to play football. And he taught us tasbeha. He taught us how to play the triangle and the symbols. He taught us the life of the church. In order to get outings, we had to spend weekends in church and enjoying the life of the church. So one weekend we decided to get our own back at Uncle Nagy, our Sunday school teacher. He used to live in the church. He used to sleep in the cupboard underneath that staircase because he was the servant that made the bread, the urban. He would provide for the wine. He knew every nook and cranny of the church and fixed things. But he also worked as a chef in order to pay for the expenses that he needed to take us out and do all these things. He was a very spiritual man. Under the stairs, that room that I said he slept in, you can't sleep fully flat. You have to be sleeping curled over. In that room, we all wanted to see what was in that room, because at different points we would smell incense coming out of the room, and we realized his holiness for different things that were going on around while he taught us. But one day we decided to get our own back and tease him. It was a wintry night. We were staying the night, Saturday night, Friday night in church, and he'd gone off to work. We were in church. It was gone dark, and this church, when it gets dark, you hear the wood sort of creaking and crackling, and we get spooked out. We got one of the brown wooden chairs, this brown wooden chair. Nighttime, no lights. This chair went right here. We got one of the guys that Uncle Nagy isn't familiar with to stand on top of the chair in a tonya, almost levitating, because you can't see the legs of the chair. And a few of us are in the corner ready to smash the cymbals and make noise as he enters. Nagy came in. We heard the creak of the door opening, the second door opening, and he starts walking up, does his prayers, kisses the icons, and he looks and he sees, and we can see he's looked and seen, and it's great, it's going to work. And we start bashing the cymbals and appearing to be spooky. He goes past, comes up, does his prayers in front of the altar, carries on, goes downstairs, and we're absolutely spooked. He had no reaction. It's as if he sees these things all the time. And we couldn't sleep in the church Friday night or Saturday night. It was so scary. What did he usually see? So that's the person on the right. There are more stories, but just you asked for 3. David is the person on the bottom right picture, just behind me. I'm the one in the red shirt. He's the one behind me in profile. That is David Buttress, our archdeacon, the one who comes to church and leads the deacons at times. That is him. So we grew up as a tight friendship, even from that age. And I would encourage you all to build your friendships now. Be in church. And this is the next bit that we're going to do. I don't know how much time. I've got no time left. So let me do this. In fact, maybe I will just pass on the presentation. But I would say that one of the things that we need to do from now, your time in church now as young people, is to build close friendships. Be each other's friends, because the friends that will stick and last the longest are those that have Christ as their basis. Those that have the basis of having the same faith as you, that Christ is working in and through you. Form friendships. We used to have a group of men that met for 7 years every week to pray and worship for each other, to pray for things that were going on in each other's life. A man was in a separate group for girls that met for 8-9 years, even longer, that would pray and share each other's lives together. We called it a Bible study sharing group. And many years later, I was in a group with Abuna David when he was not yet an Abuna, and we were in a family Bible study sharing group for how many years, Abuna? 10 years. 10 years with this amazing man.
10 years with this amazing man.
It was a great blessing. We met every Friday, most Fridays, broke bread together, had a meal, and opened the Bible and discussed together. Wives, husbands, children. It was a lovely, lovely time when we look back on it. Guys, don't miss out on these opportunities of forming true, deep friendships. I know I've overrun and I didn't realize, and I apologize, Abuna. But I'll send out the slides, but it's not important. What is important is, please build those friendships. Let them be real. Let them be true. Let them not be based on your position, how you see yourself in front of others. Let them be honest. And then be there for others. Even when at times we hurt each other, be there for them. Because Christ is in your midst, and he's the one that calls us to be in friendship together. So, 1 or 2 last slides, apologies. There are many verses that we can look at, I'll send round. But anyone know what this picture is? Thank you, Emmanuel. And who are those? The 21 martyrs of Libya. They went to Libya to work together. They had built up friendship in the town that they lived together, 20 of them. They didn't know that God was calling them into a deeper friendship, and their friendship grew. Let me show you them. I'm going to skip all the different slides that I've got that go through their life. I don't know if this sound will work. Danny, should we check? Sorry. On the right, what you'll see is a video of them in one of the first few nights they spent together in Libya, in the place that they were going to be killed. They were going to be martyred for their faith. Listen to the feeling of friendship that they had together. Words that you would have seen translated, we're going to inherit crowns for his sake. This is the joy that they had as friends together. This is what they were awaiting. God had built them up into true friends around him as their basis, and they were singing with simplicity. Thank you, Harry. They were singing with simplicity and with joy. Abuna, anything you want to say to us about this?
I have something to share with you afterwards, but I think everything that Ehab is touching on the video that you just saw, for those who do not know Arabic, it actually says this was the last song that they sang together, or worship song that they sang together before they were martyred. And as I was saying, all the words that were there was almost a prophecy, word for what will happen to them. And they were, if you see the joy that's in their eyes and in how they were so happy in what they were singing and praying, it's amazing. But this is all coming because of one important thing. The friendship that they have is rooted in Christ, and that brings unity. And with that unity, they do not see each other's faults. They do not see that it's all about me. What is it in for me? What should this person do to me? I want this person to say this to me or treat me in a certain way. It was nothing about that. It was all about giving. And when Ehab started at the very beginning about what's the main difference between worldly and Christian and godly friendships, it is all about giving. That is the core. Giving with love, with this godly love. So that was very special. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Thank you for your amazing comment, Abuna. I'll end with this slide, which is Abuna stated what C.S. Lewis stated in a book called The Four Loves, even better. So Abuna stated it better, but if you want, the book is C.S. Lewis, The Four Loves. He writes this: in friendship, we think we have chosen our peers. In reality, a few years difference in the dates of our births, a few more miles between certain houses, the choice of one university instead of another, the accident of a topic being raised or not raised at a first meeting, any of these chances might have kept us apart. But for a Christian, there are, strictly speaking, no chances. A secret master of ceremonies has been at work. Christ, who said to the disciples, "You have not chosen me, but I have chosen you," can truly say to every group of Christian friends, "You have not chosen one another, but I have chosen you for one another." The friendship is not a reward for our discriminating and good taste in finding one another out. It is the instrument by which God reveals to each of us the beauties of others. And Abuna added to that, the way that we show friendship to each other in Christ, in church, is to not look at each other's faults, is to be giving, and not to expect in return. And what a lovely summary to this topic of friendship. I'm sorry I didn't cover more material, but thank you, Abuna, for covering my back.
Thank you, Ehab. This was amazing. Can please show appreciation to Ehab, honestly.